Hello, my people. It's your Negro with Aptitude and host of the Blackboard, Mickey Lee. It's over the hump day, or as we like to say here, Waste Not Wednesday. I sure hope that your week has been going well, and I thank you for tuning in to join me this week. I'm very excited to introduce this week's guest and hope that you enjoy this interview with FarmerBrown, the MC, as much as I did. You know, things are changing rapidly, both in the United States and around the world. We're starting to go to grocery stores all across the country, and the bounty that we're used to finding is getting slimmer and slimmer. In fact, here in California, in the East Bay area where I live, I went to a Whole Foods just the other day to get some fresh thyme and noticed that most of the things that are related to making a Thanksgiving dinner have already been bought up. And as you'll hear in this interview with FarmerBrown, the MC, there is shortages in his grocery stores already. There's also some talk of a trucker strike over the weekend, over the Thanksgiving weekend. So there's a whole lot that is turning and changing on a daily basis, both in the United States and around the world. This is why I bring you Waste Not Wednesdays, so that you will be encouraged to start growing your own food, whether you live in an apartment, whether you live in a home, wherever it is that you live. There are some things that you can start to grow to lessen your dependence on the grocery stores and commercially produced food. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section whether or not you are growing some food and how this content helps you do it. I also want to say a shout out for our brand new subscriber, our new Negro with Aptitude. Hey, it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, what race you are, you can be a Negro with Aptitude if you are one who celebrates ADOS, FBA culture, and are an ally to us. We welcome you as a Negro with Aptitude. Our brand new subscriber, Brianna Lopez, welcome. And now, without further ado, FarmerBrown, the MC, this week's guest on Waste Not Wednesdays.
All right.
Hello, my people. It's your Negro with Aptitude and host of the Blackboard, Mickey Lee. How y'all doing today on this Waste Not Wednesday? Thank you for joining us. Remember, Waste Not Wednesday is the day that we focus on preparing your mind, body, and spirit for the sweeping changes that are already occurring in the United States and globally, and more that will be occurring as time marches on. So in that vein, we are always learning on Waste Not Wednesdays how to grow food, how to store food, how to shop for food, how to do first aid, how to do various types of key types of skills that will be helpful to us in survival and prep mode, okay? Because the lives that we've been living for the last, Black folks been living a different type of life, okay? Non-Black folks have the luxury of having been living, cushy lives. We only got to some cushiness 50 years ago, but everybody's going to be on a starvation diet pretty soon. I hate to put it to y'all that way, but if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I've been letting you know about the grand solar minimum, for example, and the loss of the sunspots and things of this nature, which affect growing zones and seasons. It is also why there's so much interest in Africa now, because what has been desolate in Africa before is now going to be fertile land. And that's been happening over the last 5 years or so. We've been starting to see water where there was desert. We've been starting to see, crops and bountiful produce and different types of things where there was arid ground before. And all of this, from my point of view, is I live from a biblical mind frame and a biblical life frame. So everything that we're seeing shows us that the word of God is true. And you also know that I've said there's a big difference between Black Christianity and white Christianity, and really Black Christianity and non-Black Christianity. And non-Blacks have the truth. Black folks have the spirit, but not the truth, right? So we want to make sure we have the spirit and the truth. They have the truth, but not the spirit. So here is where we see that God's word is playing out just as he said it would. And we don't have to fear if we prepare and then lean not on ourselves, but on him. All right. So that's the introduction to this week's Waste Not Wednesday. Now, this fine brother right here. Now, I'm not making up a play for him because he's married. Okay. But he's still fine. And I still got 4 eyes. So, you know, I can call it out. Okay. This fine brother right here. Y'all need to know this dude. You need to know about this dude. Now, you see, look, we have so many gems in our community. We really do. Okay. And yes, we hear a lot of vitriol about ourselves, but there are people humbly and efficiently working away outside these little hurricanes in social media, making sure that we have the skills and the things that we need to thrive as a people. And this brother right here is one of those people. All right. Y'all have heard, well, I'm assuming y'all have heard because you're probably in my age range. I don't mind, you know, that I got a little age, little mileage. Okay. Y'all probably have heard of Young MC. Y'all have heard of MC Hammer. Y'all have heard of MC Light. But if you haven't heard of Farmer Brown, the MC, you don't know, you know? So without further ado, I want to introduce to you Trevor Claiborne, also known as Farmer Brown, the MC. Hey, how you doing today,
Hey.
Farmer Brown?
I'm doing all right. I can't complain.
All right. You're looking good. You're sounding good. And we are getting ready to know all about Farmer Brown, the MC. So first of all, before he gives us a little background on himself, I want y'all to do us the favor. Hit that like button. If this is your first time on my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the share button. You're definitely going to want to share this information today. So like, share, subscribe. Farmer Brown, the MC. Why don't you start out telling us a little bit about yourself before Farmer Brown? Who is Trevor Claiborne?
So peace. First of all, Sister Mickey, I would just like to say thank you for sharing your space with me on BLACKboard. This is a great movement. I like what you said in the beginning. You know, everything starts in the garden. And so a little bit about myself. So I actually got my start as a hip hop artist. My group and I started back in 1995, Bonafide Circle in Lexington, Kentucky. As far as farming, that was the farthest thing away from my mind. You know, we grew up in the north side. It wasn't too many farms around there. When I was growing up, the big thing was rap music and Michael Jordan. And so all through high school, we did rap music. At that time, we still had CDs, so that kind of put a little time stamp on me.
That's okay.
So we did the whole underground circuit for we did the underground circuit for a few years. After we graduated, we got the opportunity to move down to Atlanta, Georgia, and intern with Arista and Motown Records, some artists from Lexington, Kentucky, Rob Jackson and Black Coffee.
Okay.
Like I said, and so we turned up for about 5 years, touring around the country, living that rap life. Like I said, growing up, that's what we thought, you know, young Black males were supposed to aspire to. And so I was fortunate to, I guess, walk through the fire and come out not completely burnt out.
Okay.
So, like I said, did that for about 5 years in Atlanta, came back to Lexington in 2006. Had a few more years of reality. You know, you're going from the Atlanta scene, you know, the hip hop scene to, you know, just being back home. So I had a lot of time to really put things in perspective as far as what's important. Like I said, if you've been to Atlanta, I'm sure where you're at, you see the illustrious life, you know, the many creative ways we can spend money and capital,
right,
and exhaust ourselves.
Right.
And so I got to a point where I was cleaning toilets.
Okay.
I say that, and I don't say it in a disparaging way, but it was a humbling experience for me. digging into my history, which I know you didn't, ask all of that. My great grandfather, my grandfather on both my mother and my father's side were janitors, and they worked in the farm. This is all research I just recently found out in recent years. And so it was an honor to go from where I was to cleaning to then put things in perspective as far as what's important to me, what's my role within my family and in my community.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Fantastic.
fast forward, I started some friends and I started a lawn care company. Actually, it was called Hero Hometown Environmental Restoration Operation.
Love it.
This was in 2008. And so I was the eldest of my buddies. And so I went and got licensed, registered with the Secretary of State. And at the time, environmental restoration, it was just kind of a buzzword. We were assuming doing yard work, cleaning up some of the distressed properties was environmental restoration. But, there's a little more science to it. And so one of my friends told me that, they'll pay you if you go to school. What he meant was you can get scholarships.
Right.
And so, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I didn't do too good in school, in high school and all throughout school. And so, since I've gotten this new breath of life, let me take it serious, get some accreditation to get our business going. So fast forward, I enrolled in the Environmental Science and Technology program at Bluegrass Community and Technical College. That's in Lexington, Kentucky. And for 2 years while I was getting my associate's degree, there was never more than 2 melanated people in my class. And unfortunately, the brother that was in there, he quit maybe 2 semesters in.
Oh.
But, to me, once again, coming from the fast lifestyle, the hip hop, it was amazing. I had never heard anything about soil quality, air quality, nature trails, environmental law. These were all foreign, but it was exciting. And so I fast forward, I got through that, maintained a 3.0 grade point average, which was unheard of for me. I wasn't somebody that took school seriously. I can value knowing things, learning things, but as far as traditional learning, I was never that formidable of a student. So fast forward, I had an opportunity to get a scholarship to a HBCU. And so the HBCU in Kentucky, the land grant university is Kentucky State University. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I done got out of community college, got a scholarship to study STEM because I had to pick a STEM field to go to a HBCU. And so it was a spin the bottle situation where I came upon agriculture because at that time, it was still just environmental science. We want to get these yards done. And so I ran into that same dynamic at the HBCU where it wasn't that many melanated people in my classes.
Stop.
And,
1 second. Roll it back. So you're telling me that you're at an HBCU, and for those of you who do not know what an HBCU is, historically Black college and university, which these days there's quite a percentage of people who are not Black or who are not ADOS. But you're telling me that you are at an HBCU and there's no melanated people in your STEM class.
Absolutely. And I will say the melanated people that were in there, I think there were 2 sisters from Chicago. Everybody else was from the islands, just other parts of the diaspora, everywhere, but, foundational American.
Okay, now, ADOS, he's telling on you. You see this, ADOS? That means there are opportunities there that y'all are not delving into. I don't know what
Absolutely.
y'all doing. But not everybody
Absolutely.
can dribble a basketball. Not everybody can be a rapper. And frankly, I'm sick of the rappers. Not you, of course. But, the mainstream, folks out there that are giving our people, making our tribe look dirty. Okay. I'm tired of it. All right. And I'm the generation that brought it in. But what he's telling you is there's opportunities out there that ADOS, FBA, is not paying attention to. Not everybody can flip a house. Not everybody can, just pop up on a business. All of these are good goals, but he's telling you there's money out there to send you to college to get the degree, which gives you the credentials and the training so that you can move into environmental sciences. And our minds, our perspectives, our understanding of the soil can be brought to bear on what happens, not only in that immediate.
Hold on 1 second. My baby just fell. Hold on.
happened,
But
pumpkin?
let's talk.
Hi.
Let's talk.
Look.
Let's talk.
Hey, baby.
It's
All right,
almost his
there we
bedtime.
go.
But to touch on that point.
Okay. See, great
But to
dad.
get back to that point,
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So quiet is kept. Well, agriculture, any land grant college, the majority of the money in these colleges is in the ag programs. And the irony to me, when I was growing up, we always thought of the HBCU as the party school. This is where we go chase the girls, go to the concerts. And so, I mean, there would literally be people on campus that didn't know an agriculture program existed, much less knowing what agriculture was. And so I kind of stumbled into it. But saying that to say there's all sorts of, like you were saying, all sorts of opportunities, all sorts of scholarships. And it was brought to my attention early during my undergrad studies there that only 2 out of every 100 farmers in North America was Black or foundational. And, you know, I'm not much of a mathematician, but 2% of anything, when depending on whose numbers you're going by, they say we represent 15 to 30. I don't know, but 2% is horrible.
Right.
And I realize 100% of us eat. Most people I know are pretty good business people if you have a concept of what it is you're selling, the product or service you're selling. So fast forward, you know, I was excited. Same way with environmental science. You know, I go to my mom's house, I'd be around family members, just talking about all these new things I'm learning, you know, agriculture, how to grow food, urban agriculture, you know, how to till the soil, things of that nature. And I was asking my niece, she was 7 at the time. I was like, Dariana, where do you think your hamburger came from? She said, a tree. And she was a very smart little girl, but she really thought this. And then when I explained to her the concept of, no, you know, those cows on the side of the road, you know, this is where your burgers come from. Unless you're vegan, then you can get it from a tree. But she was traumatized when I told her that, you know, that burger that she's eating was something that was living at a time.
Right.
And so it got to my head like, okay, how many kids have no clue about where their food comes from or don't understand the food system? And so, you know, me at this time, I was a non-traditional student at a HBCU. Most of the students in my class were like 18 and 19. So I'm like the old guy in the class, right? But it was a problem because there's a severe detachment, and it's actually known, you made a point earlier, we're 3 generations away from the farm. Most of us foundational Black are 3 generations away from the farm. And so the Farmer Brown research came about as a means, in a way I was trolling my niece. I came up with a little character, you know, the musician in me is always there. And so I come up with a few songs, one of which was Chicken Leg Shuffle. Just being silly, I figured I was going to go pull up on her at her elementary school and just surprise her. And at the same time, I had to do my second practicum project. And so I remember when I was in 1st grade, I said I wanted to be a scientist until I was only showed images of Albert Einstein. And so that's when I was like, well, that ain't for me. Let me just focus on the entertainment. So fast forward, I got an opportunity as a dude, you know, a rapper from Northside Lex to do research. And so my research was, can you use audio and video productions about agriculture to teach 3rd through 5th graders? It seemed weird, and it's funny now, like how many professors, how many professionals and smart people, you know, a lot of people laugh like, what does rap have to do with farming? But my response would be, well, pretty much everything you buy when you turn on a television has hip hop music behind it. Your corporations understand the value of hip hop. Hip hop is the most prevalent form of entertainment on this planet. We've lived long enough to see the negative effects that hip hop can have, not only on our minds, but on a community.
Right.
And so my thing was, is similar to venom being an antidote. Can you take this same concept and apply it towards producing life versus taking life? Like, you know, if you're selling liquor, guess what? Somebody grew those grapes. Somebody grew that corn. If you're selling drugs, I mean, let's just be honest. Everything that's being sold out here, from coca leaves to opium to marijuana, all of these are agricultural products. So my thing is, okay, it's hard kind of trying to convince an adult, because I'm like an old dog. I don't learn too many new tricks. And so the concept is, if we're taking a long-term approach towards building our communities, it has to start with the children. And, you know, if I come with the mad black man, like, oh, it ain't enough of us out there, that's not going to engage a kid. And so that's where the colorful character came from, similar to Bill Cosby or LeVar Burton.
So now you've evolved from Trevor Claiborne, the MC that's out there in the glamorous life in ATL, and you are now student Trevor Claiborne, but finding an opportunity to evolve into Farmer Brown the MC. So taking your previous performance background and the new student Trevor Claiborne learning all of this agricultural science and putting together the world around your neighborhood and all urban neighborhoods, that everything is being grown, from the things that we eat to the things that, people are selling on the corner, right? So, as you were talking about, various opiates and things like that, it's all agricultural based, right?
Yes.
And then seeing an opportunity to reframe something that is definitely one of the most influential, if not the most influential music types in the world. So now you are Farmer Brown, the MC, and you have begun to get this colorful character. You guys got to check it out. I'm going to put links in the description box. So you definitely got to check out the Chicken Leg Shuffle. Okay, that's all I want to say. Get your shuffle on. And so you got this colorful character going on. Talk to us about the inception now of Farmer Brown the MC and some of the great things you've been doing out there in the community.
Okay, so like I said, one of the benefits I had, I didn't have an agricultural background to know about the impediments and things that's kind of keeping foundational Black people away from agriculture. There is, personal responsibility of us as a culture not really placing value on it within our homes. This wasn't something we really talked about in my home, but there are also nefarious factions that actively, the same way they market drugs to us, they market us away from being producers.
Right.
You said agriculture is one of the most, it is the most. Agriculture is what drove civilization. When people were hunters or gatherers, you didn't have time for the arts. You didn't have time for recreation. You're spending all day trying to find food. So when our ancestors mastered the ability to, grow crops in specific places consistently, we now have more time to appreciate life. And so that's what got the ball rolling on the planet. Mm-hmm. It wasn't computers. Mm-hmm. And so with the Farmer Brown, the simple concept was visuals. If you think about the first time, I don't know your family background, but as far as in a school setting, the first time you're going to see somebody that looks like us in a farm setting, it's going to be through the narrative of slavery.
Yeah.
And so if you're a kid and you have a choice of, okay, these people look unhappy, they look disheveled, I don't want nothing to do with that. And so once again, that's marketed. The mind is a very powerful thing. Mm-hmm. And so saying that to say the concept is just, obviously a third grader or fifth grader isn't just going to jump off and want to be a farmer the next day. But I remember the people that came and presented when I was in elementary school. So, can you present such a, I guess, delicate, complex concept in a positive way? Chicken Leg Shuffle is the funniest thing, seeing gyms full of kids just hopping around. And it's a funny thing, I say chicken leg, but I'm flapping my arms. It's the psychology. They see me flapping my arms. I'm a sapio, so to speak.
Right.
But the concept is making it exciting. Mm-hmm. And then, so I did that. My original goal for my research was to reach 300 students. I needed 300 third through fifth graders, went through getting my IRB for my research, did the whole conference circuit, won a few awards for my research. And I got my 300 on my very first presentation as Farmer Brown. That was on April 16th, 2016 at my alma mater, Northern Elementary. And so in my mind, I thought it would take a lot longer. And so what I realized, the kids were dancing around, enjoyed it. They did their activities. I proved my point, but I realized, they're going to go back home. They're going to interface with whatever devices they have. Okay, you got to keep this going. And, I didn't have my career as an entertainer. This really isn't about entertainment at all. It's making use of a resource.
Right.
I can rap all day with my hands tied behind my back. So it's like, how can I take this natural resource, same principle of agriculture, and reach as many people as possible? I understand these professors, like you said, there's a lot of knowledge at these universities, but sometimes we get so smart and educated that we can no longer communicate with the people who we're supposed to be getting this information to.
Right.
And so I'm doing the presentation. So to date, I've done over 200 presentations around the country, a lot in Central Kentucky, Chicago, Atlanta, New York. And the common theme was our people are detached. You know, it's fun. You know, I like cutting up with the kids, but I also take these opportunities to really network with the adults. One thing about kids, I'm learning this with my kids, they don't understand the word I say, but when they see dad outside with the tiller and the shovel, that's the first thing they go to. They'll pass their toys and go to what they see my hands on. And so the concept was, how do you create a holistic approach towards teaching agriculture? So from there, from the presentations, we turned it into, hold on one more second.
No problem.
What's the matter, man?
Is it bedtime over there in Kentucky? What time is it there? It's
7:30.
Oh, 7:30. It's time for you to
Sister's
be
in there
going to
beating up
bed.
on them.
It's time for you to go to bed. That's what it is. That's what it is. Now I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah, so we took it from just the pre.
You keep
What's
talking.
that?
I've got to go turn off an alarm, but you keep talking. I'll be right back.
Okay.
2 seconds. Okay. Yeah, you don't want to actually talk when there's nobody there, but
Talking to myself.
all right.
But yeah, so
Just
once again, and I
practicing.
still obviously, because of this thing going on this year, I haven't been going to the classrooms.
Okay.
But prior to that, just doing community workshops, community education. I've been working at a HBCU now for 4 years. And, you know, there's good-hearted people that really want to try. But what's happened is it's so many of us that haven't been involved in it. You have a lot of people that don't really have our best interests at heart, even in their best attempts. Like, you really have to be from these communities to love them. You really have to be from the community to understand, like, hey, you might understand this, but, you know, this 20-year-old, this 30-year-old has never planted a seed before. This person is, and so you can't assume. And a lot of people give up on people. And so that's my thing about it. You really have to start them early, not just in elementary. You have to follow up with agritourism. This is going to farms. First time I went to a farm, I was in my 30s. First time I was on a farm. And so I'm like, okay, if we can create this experience for younger students, you know, it gives them a better context of what a farm is about. And not only just the students engaging the parents. Because once again, a student can't drive themselves to a program. It would take a parent, and, you know, it's a thing of creating new value. And so, you know, we've kind of fallen into this microwave society of wanting immediate results. And this kind of goes into why a lot of people don't get in the garden. And like, people throw a seed in the ground and just sit and stare at it. Like, no, you know, there's a little more than that. And the good farmers understand, you know, this is why you multitask. You know, once you've got your ground prepared, once you put your seeds in, then you go work on something else, you know, building your structures, you know, planning your next plot, you know, side businesses. And so it's really just contextualizing it to the community to understand the value of it. And that's been the essence of it.
I want to interject here for 2 things. Number one, hey guys, if you haven't yet hit that like button, it doesn't cost you a thing, right? And I know you're not hearing this anywhere else, because I'm checking to see what y'all watching. And ain't nobody else talking about this, okay? So make sure you hit that like button. Now, also, I want to say that what I like about what you've done with the FarmerBrownThaMC brand is that you have found a whole lot of different lines of touch to the community. So I want to talk about a couple of those now before we move into, you know, what Black folks really can be doing to grow their own food and things like that. Let's look at and talk about a couple of those avenues of touch. So you've got the visual presentation with FarmerBrownThaMC. You've also created the live presentation, I mean, where you actually go to schools and you're live and you're doing some of the raps. You're talking about agri-science, and I've seen pictures of you where you have kids out there, you know, with different plots of land, and, you know, they're looking at different things that are being grown. And I think I saw some video of where they were helping to grow things. You've created things like the chicken leg shuffle. Okay, but you also have quite a digital presence. So you've got YouTube videos that are, you know, your songs. you've also got a module, right? You've got a module in which you're teaching basic agri-science. And I want you guys to know, I took a little bit of his basic agri-science today. I didn't do too bad.
What was your score?
Oh, I don't know. I only did a couple of them. You know, I did like 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
And then I had to get on and prepare. But it was fun. That's the main thing you need to know. It was so much fun. And matter of fact, let me see here if I can figure out how to share this screen. Okay. I'm going to share the screen here. Now, I want to, okay, that's not the one that I want to share. So hold on. Let me get that out. Let me see. Oh, I know. Okay, so we're going to share screen, and it says, which screen do you want to share? I don't want to share none of those. That's not helping me at all. I have it up. Okay, well, I'm going to put a link in the description box because I don't want to take the chance of dropping the whole Zoom for me trying to find the screen. But I actually put the screen up with the module so that folks can see it. But I'll put that link in the description box. It's a lot of fun. So talk to us about a little bit more of those kinds of community touches or avenues you're taking to educate folks before we move into what Black folks should be doing to grow food now. Go ahead.
Yes, and so research shows that ADOS kids and Hispanic and Latino kids interface with media like 4 times more than every other group on the planet. And so my thing was identifying, you know, where are we getting these images and informations? And so through literature. I remember a long time ago, my mom, because I was going through my conspiracy phase, she's like, well, if you don't like what's in these books, you write your own. So that's what I did. And so that's one phase through books. And even my kids, they can't read, but they see pictures of themselves, kids that look like them, interfacing with farms and food. That's impacting their mind. Through the music, obviously, like you said, with the character. And originally, Farmer Brown was supposed to be an animated character. It was never supposed to really be me, but animation is expensive.
Yes.
Mind you, I started this research back in 2015. And so the technology to just create modules like the ones you have didn't exist at that time. And now my daughter's coming in meddling.
Hi, baby girl. How you doing? Hi. Hi, baby.
Yeah, and so the digital modules, and you know, the odd thing about it, when you think about everything that's gone on this year with the pandemic going on. And
Agreed.
the virtual,
okay. Hold on. Slow that down. Pandemic. This is what y'all need to understand. That's what y'all need to understand. It's a pandemic. All you have to do is look at the data, and you will know this is really not the big deal they're making it. This is not about a sickness, but I don't want to digress. Go ahead.
All right, and so once again, it's those things. The Most High kind of were tools. You know, we agree to be tools for the Most High. And so when I started this work, I had no concept in my mind that education was going to go virtual so soon. I remember sitting in my college, some of my college classes though, and a lot of my classmates were on their phones like throughout the class. And I'm thinking, you remember Max Headroom? I'm not digressing. You remember Max Headroom?
Yes.
I'm like, you know what? This is what education is going to turn into. You know, it's going to come a point in time where, you know, why would you pay a teacher, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars when you can just have these modules? And so that was, you know, part of the science behind Farmer Brown. So with the digital modules, the concept is interactive. I've watched some of these young people trying to do this distant learning, and it's like you have something just like your fingers need to touch something. You need to interface. And so the concept behind those modules was not only is it fun for the students, but it's a resource for the instructors. You don't have to be a teacher to pop this module in. You know, if you're somebody that doesn't necessarily have good internet access, once you've copied these links, then you can actually put this into a device. And if you're a parent at home, so because the thing is, we have to educate our own at the end of the day. You know, that's our responsibility.
Right.
So my thing is, how can every group in the world that's successful, they create content that's palatable to their culture. Right. And so that's the concept of the digital modules.
Fantastic. And I do want to take that moment to say, to dovetail on that and say to you, this is why you all, when you come to my channel, I do bring up race and the Bible. Why? Because race has been used to separate us from God, and I'm going to show that race can be used to return us to God. Okay? And this is the reason why I have this focus. And it's okay to be Black first. It's okay to be Black, period. Back to you. So now, what I would like to talk about at this point in the conversation is, I've been telling my audience for a while that, and showing them receipts, that, hey, they are deliberately destroying crops all over this country and all over the globe, deliberately destroying the crops, okay? They are, and the reason why I say deliberately is just what I said a moment ago. We are Black. We are not chocolate-covered white people, okay? And we are not somebody else. We are not Hispanics. Hispanics is in a group of, a collection of ethnic groups. Some are Black, some are white, some are Asian, some are indigenous. They have different thought processes. It's okay for us to have a different thought process. And how does this tie into the receipts I've been showing you about them deliberately destroying crops? Because as a Black woman, I'm like, why are you destroying the crops? They'll say, well, we don't have any workers to pick the crops. Really? You had workers before you started immigrating people. You just contacted the 4-H clubs, you contacted the prisons, you contacted all these different folks, and you said, come out here and get these crops. And you taught people in an hour how to get the crops. And guess what? The crops were gotten up, right? So all of a sudden, we don't know how to pick crops. And so you have people starving all over the world, not because there isn't food, but because there is one mentality that has been allowed to prevail around the entire world. So if you are not paying me what I want for my crop, I'm going to destroy it. And when I talk about destruction, I showed y'all earlier this year about, I think it was 300 million tons, 300 million tons of potatoes alone.
Every year, 40% of all crops grown in America goes to waste.
Repeat that, please, for the slow people in the back.
Every year in America, where 3 out of 5 Black kids now, especially since the pandemic, are going hungry and food insecure, 40%, meaning if I grew 10 apples, 4 of them go to waste. Nobody consumes them. Okay. That is that's counter rationality. But if you understand the brief history, I'm glad you brought this up. When you think about, what is it, the 13th Amendment?
Yes.
Slavery didn't end.
No.
It didn't end.
No.
The concept was, okay, we don't need as many of y'all out here on the field now, because we now have an industry. We now have machines that could do what I used to have to feed y'all.
Right.
It wasn't about, I suddenly want to make you feel better and treat you nice. Like, no, I don't need you in this model anymore.
Right.
And when we think about Black Wall Street, when we think about all of these thriving cities where the melanated family we had to because we had no choice.
Right.
We have 400 years of doing something, so that would make us like masters of it. Would you agree?
That would make us experts at this. And I don't want to take us too long into this thread, but I do have to loop back to something he told you earlier. He said nefarious. For those of you who don't know, that means evil, right? So bad actors. So when you see all of these different types of content that I do, it's not for you to get mad, because that's not going to help you in eternity. But it is to help you understand how you are being played, okay? And when you understand the game, then you understand how you're being played, and you are proactive rather than reactive. You are offensive rather than defensive, okay? That's what this is designed to show. And he's showing you the lives that so many of our people live. Yes, there's personal responsibility, but let me hit you to the T. There has been no more group of people personally responsible than Black people in all the history of people. And by Black, I mean ADOS, FBA, as you know. Okay, no shade to some of our other folks, but sometimes, oftentimes they come here and they be morphing into something else. And they forget how much aid goes to them and how many times they have their hands out. And then they come here and they look down on us. And you're eating from the table that we built. You're eating from the food that we grew. Y'all may not understand that the reason why the United States has rice crops is because of the African slaves, those enslaved African persons from which we descend. They were the ones in South Carolina, in the Carolinas, who knew how to grow those rice crops. The whites didn't. I digress. Let's get into how we need to be growing our food. Sorry about that.
It's no problem.
But not sorry.
And so I would say, you know, obviously everybody doesn't have the time, especially in what's going on now, to go get a full degree. But what I've learned is I've learned more about gardening, farming, producing food from actually meeting farmers. And they're around, it's only out of 3.5 million farmers in America. It's only about, I would say, 30,000 Black farmers left. That's horrible. But, you know, there's enough in each of these areas, especially the areas where we're concentrated, where it's worth reaching out. You know, we find, you know, what do they say? Where there's a will, there's a way. Meet somebody who's doing it. I know if like my network of Black farmers that I've met just since doing this work has expanded. Like you know, my wife and I have a business where we work with Black farmers in Kentucky. We're up to about 51.
Wow.
We started with not knowing where to even find it. It's like trying to find a leprechaun.
Right.
But once you find them, you realize, and like you said, it's nothing to get mad about. You know, LeBron James doesn't get mad if Steph Curry beats him. He goes back the next season, practice. What did I do wrong? What was I doing right? Let me get better at what I was doing right.
And also,
we're naturally innovative.
But also, what is Steph likely to do? And how can I counteract that better the next time?
Absolutely. And so if we can understand this core concept of gardening and farming not being some little cute romanticized concept, like, no, this is food production.
Right.
When we think about a city like Chicago, when you think about New York City, last time I was in New York, it just hit me like, if these bridges shut down, there's nowhere to grow anything like green space, but you have container gardens. And so this can be buckets, you know, garbage pails, laundry baskets. You can do vertical gardening, because the main thing a plant needs, you need a matrix to grow, meaning your roots need something to feed it. They need something to travel through. So sometimes you can get rocks, you know, treat them with some sort of nutrient or fertilizer. Obviously, soil is the most natural thing. But once again, if you're in one of these stacked urban areas, you're not going to have much arable soil to work with. And so this is when you would use like your box gardens, where you can, you know, you can bring in your topsoil. If you don't have topsoil, there's aquaponics. You know, you can grow a lot of leafy plants in water. You know, you have fish floating around in the bottom. The fish poop is what fertilizes it. Have a little pump, and it's a system. This is science. And, you know, once again, once you put it in our youth mind about, hey, this is something that works, they're the ones that can innovate it. Mm-hmm. One of the things I learned doing my research is nobody has figured out all the answers. We just assume because somebody plays a commercial that all the answers have been figured out, so we can just go turn up and go about life. That's not the case at all.
No.
It's the same thing as our little twisted concept of history. We assume that, oh, we just came here as slaves. There was nothing before then, until you dig back and like, oh, this wasn't even a chapter. This was a sentence in a 100-chapter book.
Right.
And the majority of these chapters, we was the ones doing it.
Right.
So going back to what you're saying about Steph Curry, get back good at producing. And I'm answering your question kind of the long way around. Once you understand the concept of every plant needs sun, you know, we're talking about the Most High. Everything that survives, whether you're a plant or animal, you're seeking the light. Right. So that's the plant. Mm-hmm. So obviously you're not going to grow a plant in a dark space. Mm-hmm. So you need to have somewhere in light. Every house I know has a roof, right? Some are slanted, some are not. If you have apartment buildings, there's a lot of people starting to do gardening on top of buildings. When you think about parks and green spaces, one of the things I'm noticing, even on a national level, the whole talk about urban agriculture is coming to the spotlight, even with the other people, because they realize, okay, our food system is very unsustainable. It's based around commercial monocropping, meaning I have 1,000 acres of the same thing that if chicken doesn't buy it, it just goes to waste.
And I want to interject real quick and say, again, that's because of one mindset, one set of opinions, one set of knowledge that's been allowed to prevail. Now, y'all know I'm in the East Bay area. I'm in Oakland, right? And so even these new high rises they're building, though nobody can afford to live in them, each one of them has rooftop gardening now.
Absolutely. When you think about when you fly over the country, you realize that every human being on planet Earth, 7.6 billion people, can fit in the state of Texas with 10 feet around each of us. To put in perspective how much space it really is.
Mm-hmm.
I think about this concept of gentrification. That's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thing is, okay, stop fighting. Y'all won't come back in these cities. Here, come have at it. We'll go to these rural areas because once again, the Most High is not fooled.
Right.
People are dying out, and I don't rejoice on anybody's distress.
Right.
But let's just keep it real. Opioids are killing people in these rural areas. People aren't reproducing like they used to.
Right.
And so it's a matter of, while we see this trend happening, what are we training to get good at? And that's what I mean by meet somebody who's doing it. The FarmerBrownThaMC, it's content.
Mm-hmm.
It's palatable for a kid to get the basic concept. Hey, this is something, if you're quarantined in your house, this is something you can work on in your backyard.
Mm-hmm.
The Hispanics here in Kentucky, I mean, it's their culture.
Right.
Like you ride down they have gardens.
Right.
They have them on their balconies.
Right.
That's normal to them. It's not abstract.
Right.
They're not looking at it as fighting social justice. That's just a part of their culture.
I gotta take a pause on this point. I gotta take a pause on this point. Listen, you guys, I read a lot of content and stuff where Black people are putting other Black people down because it compares to the Hispanics. Not that this is what you were doing. So let me just finish this point real quick. Okay. In the same way that our destruction was very carefully implemented and designed, our attempted destruction and the fact that we're still here is actually evidence of God's presence and evidence of who he wants to stay stays. Okay. And to a degree, God's favor upon us, but those are other videos. But the same way the attempted genocide over 500 years has been carefully and consistently meted out, it's the same way these folks' success was carefully planned and implemented, not by them alone. Now they've taken advantage of it, but by the same group who is trying to annihilate us. And it's important for you to understand that while we can look at Hispanics and we can glean from them what is useful to us, there is absolutely no reason for us to feel like we are less than or we are a failure compared to or whatever. It has been decided by the prevailing group that these people will succeed while they continue to attack us. And this is what you're seeing. Now, spiritually, Hispanics going to have a lot of explaining to do. And I'm going to do videos about that, okay? Because there is no illegal immigration in heaven. There is no using your children, selling your children to get green cards. That's not allowed in heaven, okay? But that's a whole nother Mickey Lee show. That's a whole nother Blackboard. The point that I'm trying to make right now is when we hear about them and we hear what we're doing, I know a lot of Black folks tend to feel like, but no, glean from it what we can get, what is wonderful, work with them to the extent that it's beneficial for you. But we are the ones that originally came here with this as part of our culture too. Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely. And I don't want you I don't disparage any group. When you understand nature, nothing in nature has a government it can go to and say, hey, somebody's doing something wrong to me. I mean, what was the first place? People say we want to get close to God. The first place, the closest we were was in a garden. And so to that degree, that we strengthen that relationship, and it's not anybody else's responsibility. I like to live my life acting like other people don't exist. And like you said, glean from people. I know in Lexington, when I grew up, I can count on one finger how many Hispanics I knew. And literally 20 years later,
Right.
And you have to respect it. There's hood stores in some of the hoods we grew up in that was grimy forever. They came together and worked. I mean, these are some of the nicest urban stores. So to me, that's inspiration.
Yeah.
Because like you said, we're the original people. We did this before there were other people on the planet.
Right.
And so it's a humbling. Going back to what I was telling you about the cleaning, I realized the most valuable thing that as a people we can do that will strengthen us is being able to provide products and services. Main thing being food.
Right.
What it say? As above, so below. If we can start within our households to value just the concept of planting a seed. No, everybody's not going to have a huge farm. You know, if we're sitting waiting on these people to give reparations, I mean, that'll be the right thing to do. But the day I look at it, the day they give us reparations, the day after the dollar's going to die. And so my thing is, what can we do now? This planet exists now. We're surrounded by land now. If I'm in the city with all of these buildings, there's multiple practices. It's called urban gardening. You know, we can find anything we want on.
Let's recount some of the ones that you mentioned real quick. Let's recount some of them real quick. So as he mentioned before,
you can do container garden.
Okay.
Container garden. This is with barrels, trash cans, laundry baskets, anything that's a container that can hold your matrix, your soil. You can do vertical gardening. And so at our house, I have wood pallets. These are just pallets that people throw away, but you can put landscape fabric in between them, set them at an angle on a wall, you know, facing where you're going to get the most sunlight. Good for greens. You know, you don't want anything heavy that's going to outweigh it. You can also do aquaponics. This is growing plants in water. Box gardens. And so if you don't have good soil, you know, get some old wood. Get some old wood, create a box. When you have people, some people have back problems. And so you can make raised bed gardens. You know, you can do those. Straw bale gardens. And so a lot of people throw away straw. A lot of construction sites use straw. You can grow sweet potatoes, you know, different type of legumes and straw bales. And that's just to name a few. Old bottles. And so you can use bottles in vertical gardens. And I mean, you can actually beautify them. But what we're talking about, you know, it's going to come a point we're not worried about beauty. We want it to be functional.
To be functional. Yes.
But saying that to say, any container we have, you kind of want to stay away from plastic if you can. But if you do use plastic, you know, make sure you line it with some sort of fabric. But it's just basically the concept is you need a matrix for your roots to grow. You know, there's a lot of scientific words to throw around, but to keep it simple, stupid, as my grandfather would say, you need a container. If I have a plant that's going to have big leaves, then you obviously want a space big enough to contain those big leaves. If you're going to have a fruit or a vegetable that's going to be heavy, then no, you don't want to have it growing upwards. You want those closer to the ground. And the container gardens, so say if you use a 55-gallon barrel, you can grow up to 55 different plants in those. This is either you could take a blowtorch, melt it, you know, cut into it and open it, and you create a hole, or you can drill. You know, once again, my mind is on what can we work with what we have. If we wake up tomorrow and they say, you know what, we ain't gonna mess with y'all no more, but we're not giving you nothing. You know, get it how you live. What can we work with what we have around us?
And on that note, before we begin to wrap up, again, the reason that I'm bringing this to you, and I've shown you the receipts, is that day that he just said, we ain't gonna mess with y'all no more and we ain't give you nothing. That's coming sooner than you think. Okay, as I told you, millions and millions of acres of crops have been deliberately destroyed. Hundreds of millions of animals, agriculture has been deliberately destroyed. That's in addition to the weather events that God has already sent, or that some people will say is the result of HAARP. So this is not a video for y'all to watch it and then check it off as I'll do something later. No, I'm bringing FarmerBrownThaMC on, just like I brought Daryl Addison of Torpedo Pot on, to show you that you can take steps right now today to start growing things. And I do suggest that you pray over whatever it is that you're growing, and you ask the Lord to provide, because we're in for a rocky ride. And we are a community that's deeply fractured. We've got a lot of separation between the men and the women. There's a little bit of class issue. There's regional issues. There's urban versus agriculture. So it'll be difficult for us to come together. But you know what? People don't mind you knocking at the door when you have something in your hand, right? So when it gets to the point where they are shutting down the grocery stores, and I don't know if you've heard this, they're talking about a trucker strike over
trucker strike November 26th through 29th. They had one on the 11th. Before I even knew about that, I had gone to the store that day to get some grocery for my mom, and I mean the whole fruit section was empty. And I know it's, you know, in my head, every store only has 3 days worth of food.
You see?
Keep that in mind. Every store, Walmart, Kroger, I don't know what y'all have on that end.
Right.
Every store only has 3 days worth of food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, we take a lot for granted.
Right. So, you know, he and I, you know, we want to keep this video to the length where you're watching. But here's the thing. Y'all will sit there and watch a movie with butt naked women and doofus dudes, okay, talking about stupid stuff. Y'all sit there 2 hours and watch that, okay? But we're telling you how to save your lives because I've been prepping for 5 years. I've been telling my people, my family, and my network how to prep for 5 years. I started this channel to fill in the gaps of what I did not see being happening out there. These churches that y'all been relying on, and I'm not against the church, but when I started reaching out to pastors and saying, hey, 2 years ago, hey, this is coming. There's going to be food shortages. There's going to be famine. And we as the church, even if the Lord should remove us via this rapture, we as the church have an obligation to have something for him to send the left behind to. And you know good and well in your own family, you're going to have what we have. Guess what? Ain't nobody calling me back. And I got a pastor or two on the phone. They were irritated by the topic and they wanted me off the phone. Nobody responded to my emails, nothing. Okay? So I'm saying this to say, if you're watching this video, the Lord is trying to reach you. I'm not here to say that he said, I heard a sound of rushing waters. He's never said anything directly in my ears, but I have learned enough about him to know there are hundreds and hundreds of millions of videos that are uploaded every single week. If you're watching one in which somebody is showing you how to grow food now, it came across your stream for some reason, you clicked on it for some reason, he's trying to reach you. Don't ignore it. All right, Farmer Brown, the MC, we could go on and on and on, and I certainly would love to. I would love to have you back as a guest so that maybe we can do a project together over Zoom, and you can walk me through something. We can talk about it after I stop the recording, and maybe we can do something like that when, you know, as your schedule you know, allows, something that the people can see. I can go and get, you know, whatever it is you suggest, and then we can record it over the Zoom, and they can watch me doing these things. But I just can't tell you enough. You know, thank you so much for joining us. Now, before we wrap up, I want to know how can we reach you? How can we stay in contact with you? And how can we support you? And guys, again, if you haven't yet hit the thumbs up button or the subscribe bell, you need to hit the thumbs up, the subscribe, hit the notification bell. How can we reach you? And how can we support you? So
you can reach me at black2thegarden.com. That's black2thegarden. There you'll find some of my literature. And also I have 3 hours worth of content, video, agritourism from foundational Black farmers around Kentucky who have different operations. Some of them are value-added producers. And then 4321. Remember 4321, April the 3rd, 2021. That's the weekend of Easter at 12 noon Eastern time, 11 Central time, 10 Mountain time, 9 West time. Hit the garden. We just hit the ground.
Okay.
It's just something we could do. I know the MFAC is they're trying to do the million gun formation. Can we do the million black shovels formation? That's my goal on 4321. Okay. This is something that doesn't cost anybody. If you don't have a shovel, just get your hand. Mm-hmm. This is a show of solidarity. Mm-hmm. Leave your religion, leave your ideology. Mm-hmm. This is simply us doing a codified, productive act. Mm-hmm. It will be good. This is a great time for people to start their gardens, depending on what region you're in. Mm-hmm. But April the 3rd, 2021, 4321, Million Black Shovels Formation at the same time.
I'm going to make sure to put that in the description notes as well. And then I'll also put it on my calendar so I can follow up with you maybe a month or so in advance, and maybe we can do something very quick, just to pub it again. So listen, it has been just my great pleasure to talk with you, to bring you to, the Blackboard, you are now an official Negro with aptitude. Okay? All right? We're going to take that NWA and flip it to something more useful. Negroes with aptitude, right? So we know what's up. We know what time it is. We're reading our book, which is the Bible, and we are getting ready to win, not only here, but in eternity. So once again, I want to say a big thank you to my guest, Trevor Claiborne, also known as FarmerBrownThaMC. I want to thank you, Negroes with Aptitude, for joining us on this Waste Not Wednesday. Be on the lookout for Faithful Fridays coming up on Friday, and I'll be looking at you again soon.
Peace.
All right, hold on there. I'll stop the recording and then we can chat. Just a moment. Let me see. That'll be in. Oh, here it is. Stop. Okay, good. That gives me a couple of seconds to.
Thanks again for joining me on this episode of The Blackboard. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, take a moment and check out the information located in the description box. There are lots of links and information about other people that I watch who do excellent content to help empower you and educate you so that you wind up on the right side of eternity. We'll see you next time.